sometimes you end up settling because you've never had what you wanted. Unhealedness triggers a side of me that I don't want to go back to, and I don't just want to be loved. I want to be loved by the right person. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jhazel and this is my channel, and today, as you can see, we're in a different setup right now. This is my podcast style setup, and I really wanted to just start adding podcast styles to my channel because I'm really in this phase of like adding everything that just comes, like any inspiration that I have, I'm just incorporating it into my channel. And so today I wanted to incorporate this style video. I'm starting to incorporate this style video, and I thought I would start off by talking. I want this style video to be about my healing journey and what I've been learning about my healing journey and things that's just been affecting me and what I've been going through. And hopefully through these videos I can connect with my subscribers and everybody, my family, my extended community through this, and get a deeper connection with you guys. So that is my hope for this style video. So today we have a great topic, and it's about how I had to break my own heart to preserve my self-worth. And I thought that I would start off with this video because it's really been the main thing that I've been learning recently. Like, I was sitting in the car talking to myself, and I was talking about how like I kind of have this resentment towards myself because I constantly have to keep breaking my heart to preserve my self-worth. So I want to start back to like my childhood. So growing up, I grew up with my mom and my dad. I have both of my parents in my life. They were not together. They were never married. They were in a relationship, but they were never married. Okay, so and growing up, I always kind of felt like I was never seen or heard because I was the oldest daughter, and I have a younger sister. And so I always did well in school. I was always like on top of my grades, and I always just wanted better for myself. And so a lot of times, because I was so independent, my parents really didn't have to be on me that much. And so a lot of times they kind of didn't see or hear me because they always just knew like, oh, Jhazel got it. She'll take care of herself. Like she'll have it together. Like she doesn't really need help. She's independent. She'll figure it out. Da da da. And if she needs it, then we'll help her. But she doesn't really need it. And so growing up, later on, I would find out through therapy that I was, in a sense, emotionally neglected. And so it manifested into this hyper independence. And so also I didn't have like the best relationship with my father. He was present, but he was there, but he was never really present in my life. He wasn't like a father figure. Like he didn't buy flowers on Valentine's Day. Like he wasn't necessarily my first love in a relationship. Like he wasn't my first love like what a father figure is supposed to be. And so through that, like that emotional neglect showed up in my relationships, because I would start to date people that like I just wanted to feel loved, and I wanted to feel loved so badly that I was settling for anything and accepting anything, because I also didn't know my self-worth. And at first I did know my self-worth, but after a while, when you start dimming your light for friendships and family, and just you start really your friendships, and like in middle school and high school, I was really dimming my light for friendships that I had, that I started to lose sight of my self-worth. Like I remember growing up and thinking like, I'm that girl, like I'm destined for greatness, da 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 da. But then as I started welcoming certain people in my life that knew my greatness but would ultimately want me to dim my light for them because they also didn't match my greatness, I started to lose myself trying to accompany this person that I was with. And so it started showing up in my relationships. Like, I was just settling, and I was just dimming my light, and I was just accepting less than the bare minimum. I didn't know what boundaries were. I didn't know what standards were. I didn't know any of that, and I really didn't have any sense of self-worth. And so I was just accepting anything and everything, and it was just really saddening, you know. And after a while, I decided that I'm just going to go to therapy. I'm going to, you know, do the inner work on myself, because I was forming really bad anxiety, and I was just getting into these relationships that were just not healthy for me. And so I was just like, you know what, something has to change. I need somebody that I can talk to, because like I said, being emotionally neglected is still manifested even when I was in adulthood. So I decided to find somebody that was outside of family that I could talk to, that could really hear my voice and didn't want to make the conversation about them when I was really expressing myself, to the point where I was becoming closed off, because every time I would express myself to this person, they would make it about them, essentially. So after that, I decided to go to therapy. I started doing the work on myself and really just doing the inner work and healing. And through that, I was able to start figuring out my self-worth. I started taking myself on solo dates. As y'all can see, a lot of times in my vlogs, I'm going on solo dates, because it's very important for me to date myself as much as I would be dating somebody else. I really need that personal time. And then I was able to set boundaries, standards. I was able to figure out what I want in my future partner, what I don't want in my future partner, what I'm willing to compromise on, what are my non-negotiables like. And so after that, right, after I started really doing the inner work and really healing and figuring out what I needed to do in order to show up as my best self, the universe started testing me like crazy. Like, if y'all see in my vlogs, I always talk about how somebody, like, I'll be in the car talking about how, like, I'm so glad that I moved on from that situation, and how, like, that person didn't serve me for my highest good, and how I was just settling so much in that situation. And I mean, no more than like an hour later, that person would hit me up on the phone talking about how they apologized for the way they treated me, and da 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 da. And it really was a test to, like, did I learn my lesson, and do I know my self-worth? Am I willing to give this person a second chance? Do they deserve a second chance, you know? And ultimately, I would just say, like, we can't, like, I really accept your apology, but we really can't, like, go back, because honestly, like, you've really hurt my feelings, and there's just no coming back from that for me, especially depending on how the situation ended. However, the universe will also bring new people in that would trigger, that would trigger if I was going to settle, if I knew what I really wanted. And sometimes, you know, it's a new situation, so you want to give people the benefit of the doubt at the beginning, like, okay, we can work past this, you know, I can work past this, let's try again. But sometimes, like, I was willing to see past certain red flags. Like, I learned my lesson, but I realized that I can learn my lesson, but I have to, like, constantly be tested on it. Like, I'm a visual learner. You can tell me something and I can learn it. But when it comes to, like, real life scenarios in love and in healing, I have to constantly be tested on those things, and I have to constantly work at them to be good at them. I realized that about myself. Like, I can't just learn something in therapy and then just ultimately use it in real life. I have to constantly be triggered and tested to perfect it, to show up properly, to use my voice properly. So a lot of times I would get in relationships and red flags would pop up, and I'm like, okay, like, at the beginning I was like, okay, like, you know, I really like this person, I really want to see where it goes, like, I can work past this red flag, you know, like, this one is not as bad, it's like, it's not in my non-negotiables either, it's not in, so it's like, okay, I can work past this. But after a while I realized, like, okay, I can't work past this, like, I can't, like, one, okay, two, no, I can't. And so I had to start breaking my own heart to preserve my self-worth. So in a sense, when I say I had to break my own heart to preserve my self-worth, what I'm saying is that I had to walk away from situations, and I'm ultimately learning now that after the first red flag, I'm walking away. Because usually the red flag that you don't walk away from is usually the demise of the relationship. It never fails. And so I had to start breaking my own heart, because as much as I wanted to be with this person, as much as I could see myself being with this person, I had to walk away from the situation in order to save myself, because I was going to end up losing myself. I was going to end up heartbroken, and I was going to end up in a cycle that really wasn't meant for me to even be in had I not broke my own heart, you know. And it happened to me recently. I actually really liked this guy. I really enjoyed his company, his presence, everything. But he just wasn't mature at my level. You know, he was older than me, and I prefer to date older than me, even though people say, like, you know, older people date younger people. Why can't they date people their age? I don't know how I feel about that. But I noticed that he, like the saying says, just because they're older doesn't mean they're more mature. And he just wasn't ready to take accountability for his actions. He didn't really respect me, and I had to break my own heart, you know. As much as I wanted it to be with this person, and I really was like, you know, if you had your stuff together, it would be an honor to be loved by you. And I find myself saying that about a lot of people. Had you had your stuff together and like you were where I needed you to be, it would really be an honor to be loved by you. But because you're not, it's not an honor to be loved with you. And ultimately, it really could be the demise, because if I really connect myself with the wrong person, I could be in a cycle that was never intended for me to be a part of, you know. And so I say all that to say is that sometimes you have to walk away from situations just off the mere fact that you know what you deserve. And even though you may have never seen what you deserve, even though that you constantly keep running into the same nonsense, and you keep thinking like, maybe I'm meant to have this because this is what I keep attracting. You just have to, it's a test to see if you really are going to you're going to stand 10 toes on what you believe you deserve, you know. The reason why you constantly keep running into things is because it's supposed to trigger things in your healing journey for you to be better at, to ultimately receive what you know you deserve. And two, it's just like sometimes you have to break your own heart to preserve your self-worth. If you know what you're worth, if you know, like, if you have this abundance of self-love, if you know you're that girl that deserves a man that's going to give you reassurance and that communicates effectively with his emotions, that's emotionally intelligent, that cares about you and loves you and wants to learn your love languages and wants to know more about you. If you know that you deserve a partner like that, then sometimes you got to walk away from this guy that ultimately looks like your type, but it's not mentally there. You know, you have to break your own heart because you want it and you can see it. And the thing about it that really causes you to break your own heart is because you see the potential. But I don't date off potential. I date off of what you're doing, you know? Like, what are you doing? What are you getting accomplished? I don't date off of potential. And that's what ultimately causes you to have to break your own heart, is because you're dating off of potential and not off of like what this person is showing you, you know? And so, yeah. I say all that to say is that sometimes you just have to walk away from people that you know are not good for you. Sometimes you have to walk away from people off the red flags, off the first red flag. You don't need to see the crazy to know that they're crazy. If you feel like they're crazy, if you can see an ounce of the craziness, just walk away. If you feel like you need to go through the phone, just walk away. You know, sometimes you just got to break your own heart to preserve your self-worth. And I know what I'm worth. I know what I bring to the table. I know how much work I've done on myself to be not only a good person for me, ultimately that's number one, but to be a good mother in the future, to be a good partner in the future. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. No one's perfect. And ultimately, I've only done enough work by myself. All the other work will have to be triggered when I get a partner, or when I become a mother. Like, there's certain things that you learn, that you would just have to learn when you get there. You know, when you're in that relationship, when you're in that healthy relationship, when you're in that motherhood, there's just certain things that you learn in those different scenarios. But the work that I've done by myself is a lot of work. You know, I've had to go through death of the ego. I've had to heal childhood trauma or childhood pain. I've had to heal through daddy issues. I've had to heal through just like self-worth issues and finding my voice and people pleasing. So I've done all this work on myself. I can't go backwards just because I want to be loved by this person. The right person is going to meet me where I am in my journey. And ultimately, I hope that they not only meet me where I am in my journey, but they help me in growing in my journey. And so, because you're fine and you got money and I like you, sometimes that's just not enough. And where I am right now, that's just not enough for me. And so if I have to walk away from the situation because I know what I'm worth and I know how much I love myself, and I know that you ultimately cannot give me what I need, and that ultimately you will push me backwards because you trigger a side of me, your unhealedness triggers a side of me that I don't want to go back to, I gotta walk away. And it hurts because it's like, I ultimately find myself asking the universe, like, why do you keep bringing people in my life that are not good for me? You know, like, why do I keep getting tested? And sometimes I find myself even asking the universe, like, why have I not received what I've been asking for? And another thing I've also asked is, like, you cannot expect me to be still open to love when all I have met is horrible partners. You know, like, when all I keep getting is like disrespected and no accountability, no respect for me, manipulation, gaslighting. How am I supposed to be open to love when I keep running into horrible people? Like, why do you keep bringing these horrible people to me? You know? And sometimes like that, like sometimes you end up settling because you've never had what you wanted and what you know you deserve. And I always talk to my therapist about that. I'm like, I'm tired of having to walk away from situations because I know what I deserve. Like, at this point, it's getting to the point where I don't even believe it's out there because I have not yet been able to run into it, you know? And she always tells me, it's like, you just got to stand on that this is what you deserve. And ultimately, it comes from there. And sometimes I find myself longing for those people in the past that I've had to break my own heart over, because I'm like, maybe I judged this person too soon, or maybe I walked away from something or maybe I judged something too early. But that is a limiting belief, a limiting mindset, because ultimately you're thinking that you're not enough for what you deserve. And my affirmation lately has just been, I am enough. And with that, I've expanded on it, and is, I am enough to wait on what I deserve. I am enough to wait on what I deserve. Whether it takes a year or 2 years, I will just continue to keep loving on myself, dating myself, pouring into myself. And although I have this abundance of love that I want to give somebody, I want to give it to the right person. I want to be in a healthy relationship for once. I want to be with someone that I've never been with someone that genuinely likes me. I've always been with people that just want to use me or take something away from me. I want to be with someone that genuinely likes me. And so if I have to wait for that, I will wait for that. It's worth waiting for. I'm worth waiting for. I'm worth it. I am enough. And so, although I am in this waiting period of waiting for that person, the universe still tests me. They still bring people that will trigger something in my journey that I need to work on while I wait for this person. And through those moments, I've had to break my own heart to preserve my self-worth. So, if you're out there and you're feeling like, you feel like there's just no hope in relationships, and you're just feeling like, why have I not received what I want? Why have I not received this healthy relationship? I see everybody on social media in these relationships. First of all, social media is fake. Not all of social media is fake, so that is where discernment comes in. But I would just say, like, it's not all what it cracked up to be. And yes, everybody posts their highs. They don't always post their lows. Of course, they're not posting when they're fighting and thumbs is in the face, and they're not posting all that. But what I can say is that you are enough. You are enough to get what you deserve and what you want out of a relationship, out of a friendship. And it's not only just for relationships, it's for friendships too. Like, I'm not settling in friendships. I'm not settling in relationships. I'm waiting for my tribe. I'm waiting for my person I am worth waiting for. And through those times where I'm waiting, I am perfecting and becoming the best possible person to receive those type of people, okay? And so I would just say that do not settle. Do not settle. In a time where I feel like everybody is settling, I just can't do it. And with not settling comes the possibility that you may not meet your person. And also comes the possibility that you'll spend more time alone than you will with people that match your frequency. Because it's not a lot of, because once you start healing, you realize that there's not a lot of people out here healing. Like, oh, you got childhood trauma, I can tell by the way you're talking. Oh, like you lack accountability because you don't want to take accountability for the situation or your part in it. Oh, you have daddy issues. Oh, like once you start healing, like you can pinpoint people's triggers and people's, like, you can pinpoint the unhealed like that. So you realize that a lot of people out here that are in these loving relationships, they're unhealed. It's a lot of trauma bonding going on. It's a lot of just settling going on. It's a lot of people making babies with people just off of just revenge and just getting even. And it's just so much going on that you realize that when you get to that point in your healing journey where you're healing, you realize that there's really not a lot of people on your frequency. And so it's really hard for you to come into alignment with a lot of people because they're not on your frequency, you know? Like they say, it really is lonely at the top because it takes a certain persona, a certain amount of discipline to get to the top. And a lot of people just aren't willing to do that. You realize that a lot of people would rather take shortcuts. A lot of people would rather not do the work and just get it handed to them. And so that's the same thing with healing. It's very lonely at the top. You spend a lot of time by yourself than you do with people. And you really got to watch out for the people that are fake healed, because a lot of people be fake woke, they be fake healed, they be basing off their healing off of social media. And it's just like, healing is not that. Healing is not self-care. Healing is crying your eyes out because you just got triggered by something. Healing is realizing that you've been operating out of ego, and that's why you haven't been walking in your purpose. It's not beautiful. There's moments, there's beautiful moments, don't get me wrong. In this healing journey, there's beautiful moments. But a lot of times, especially in that beginning part, it's ugly. I spent more days crying Then I have smiling. I think I've just gotten to the point where I'm just happy and smiling. But at the beginning of my healing journey, I was crying so much. I was crying every day on my lunch break. And then I was crying at night. Because you go through death of the ego and it's just so much. So I just want to say, like, do not settle out here. People are settling. People are settling. I just refuse to settle. And so if I have to break my own heart to preserve my self-worth, to preserve my self-love, to preserve me, then I'll do that. If I have to be by myself in solitude, then I'll do that. If I have to go on solo dates by myself, I'll do that. Because I realize that solitude and it's not punishment, it's protection. And the moment that you really realize that, it's like you really start to enjoy your solitude. Like I just got to that point. Before I used to think like, why is the universe punishing me? Like, I'm doing the work. Why am I not doing all the things everybody else is? Why am I not in these relationships? Why am I not getting the hotel room with the flowers? But you realize is that you realize that yes, some people, they met their person and they got that. But you also realize that a lot of people are out here settling less for what they deserve because they just want to be loved. And I don't just want to be loved. I want to be loved by the right person. I deserve to be loved by the right person. I deserve it because I'm enough and I'm doing the work. And I want someone that's also doing the work. So I'll leave you guys with that. I hope it's a lot of rambling. Hopefully as I do more of these, I get better with just getting to the point. But I cannot wait to keep implementing these into my channel, and I really hope you guys enjoy this first episode. I need to figure out a name for it, but I hope so. I was doing this series called Dear Universe, so I might just move that Dear Universe into like a podcast type thing. I think that's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.